Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello, and thank you for watching.
And if you are listening to this, you're one of our valuable patrons. Thank you again.
We love you.
This is an exclusive episode just for you guys. Don't tell anyone else about this.
No, tell everybody.
What am I saying?
No, literally, what we'd like you to do is tell
everyone
about this.
about how good it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I've talked about this before or brought it up with you, but do you remember a while back we did an episode on cults, and specifically the one located up near me, the Universal Medicine.
Yep.
Did I tell you that I met a dude who's written a book about it, whose wife was taken into the cult?
Yeah, I mean, I remember you telling me that, but I can't remember whether you told me on the podcast.
Yeah. No, there's a guy in town. I met him at the dog park, and he told me all about his wife. He lost his wife to Universal Medicine. She became deeply entrenched into the cult. So I think vaguely the guy, it was an ex-tennis coach turned guru.
Yeah.
Tennis coaches are always like a...
I feel like this is where we went in the first place, which was he was already dodgy.
Yeah, like...
Man who owned ice cream van also ran cult.
But he's written a book about it. Hasn't published it. A manuscript, I should say. And he wanted me to...
A person's script.
Well, it's kind of funny, because I said to him, I know you about Universal Medicine. And I told him, we'd talked about it on this show. And so... he sent me this manuscript to read, but I haven't read it yet. And part of me is like, because I live there, and I know he went through shit, whatever Universal Medicine's suppressive person's equivalent is. Like, he was a suppressive person.
So you're a little bit worried that you don't want to be associating with a
weird
suppressive person because you're an ASP.
Yeah, if he's been monitored right now, they see me talking to him at the dog park.
Yeah, he's handed over the manuscript. He's probably on a list.
Well, he sent it to me via text.
All right.
But
they're probably tracking his phone. They probably bugged his phone.
But do you think there's, because Gemma especially was very weirded out by it, and she's like, I don't want any cult people.
Don't bring this universal medicine around our. Yep.
I mean, do you think there's any danger? What can a cult do besides steal your money?
I think.
I don't think these guys are they're not because aren't there two different kinds of cults? There's what are they called? What are the death cults, right? The ones where
I don't think they're a death cult.
No.
Not intentionally. So I think that's...
I think they're just a money exploitation cult. Because I do remember asking this guy, I said, is this dude particularly charismatic? And no, he's like a little weirdo. They're always little weirdos, these cult leaders. Not particularly tall or good looking or attractive, just a little bit of a weirdo. But he said he's just very good at identifying wealthy benefactors and latching onto them. So apparently, because I think he went through a whole bunch of legal cases and lost property, lost money or whatever, but apparently has latched onto a very wealthy woman who is provided him with land and resources and stuff. So up near your way or your old place, I think they're mainly located.
All right. Interesting. I think you're probably okay. As long as you don't align yourself with this person.
Oh, okay, but if we even, this is just for Patreon, but if we start talking about it more, am I putting a target on my back?
Interesting.
We've talked about Scientology and stuff and nothing's happened, and I feel like these guys don't have the... Oh, you think maybe we're being monitored?
Maybe the reason that this podcast has never been as successful as we thought it was going to be because we went after Scientology.
You went through a bit of a phase of cult stuff. You like cults, don't you? Fascinated.
I'm interested in cults.
Yeah,
I don't
I know you don't like cults.
I'm for the public record, I am... No, because I'm not a joiner in general.
Yeah.
I spoke to Ben Lee about this because he joins every cult that comes his way. And
he's stopped though, hasn't he?
He's trying to stop, but now he's starting his own cult,
Because I saw that post where he was saying he's a seeker and he's always, but what he's come to realize is there's always a point in which it becomes corrupted.
Yeah.
There's always someone who wants to sleep with your wife.
Yeah, exactly. It's always fun and games until the cult leader wants to fuck your wife and take your money. And I
and
mean,
homophobic too. That was the other thing you pointed out, which I thought was interesting, is all these kind of religious cults, at some point, there is a level of like homophobia that comes to
because the
play.
cult leader doesn't want to fuck your husband.
Yeah, yet.
I mean, obviously when it comes to cults, when you live within and this is the other thing, like the part of the world in which you live, there's all sorts of
beliefs,
alternative beliefs. And what's the difference between an alternative belief or a group of people who believe the same thing and a cult?
And I've always felt like, I grew up at Catholic, going to church. So
I mean, that's a cult. That's one of the most famous cults in the world.
100%. And so I feel like I understand indoctrination because for a long time I didn't even question, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
When I got to
I mean, if you'd grown up in the Universal Medicine Church and been sent to a Universal Medicine school to learn all about Universal Medicine compulsory as part of your educational program, as they're teaching you about physics, they're also teaching you about universal medicine, then you'd probably believe universal medicine too.
Yeah, totally. And so I'm sympathetic in a way. Well, I'm sympathetic to people who grow up in it. But it's the thing I'm always fascinated by is it's when it's someone like, it feels like celebrities will get super, like Madonna, the Beatles, whatever, they get super rich and wealthy and they've sort of achieved everything that they wanted to achieve, on a material plane. And then they're like, oh God, but I still feel empty. I need to, what's that thing that they're all joined for a while? Kabbalah? Where they were wearing the red, remember that
That's
was
right.
So the Beatles did, it was Hinduism and then Kabbalah with like Madonna and Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore. Like, there's always seems to be a point, like there's a desire for humans to have spiritual nourishment. You achieve success, you make money, and you think, it's like Rob Carlton when he was on your show and he was talking about Tom Cruise. And it's like, here's a dude who has achieved everything he probably ever wanted to do, but there was a sense of emptiness there. Like he still was not comfortable in his own skin.
And that's right. And he needed to fill that with the fictional tale of some people from Xenu.
Or whatever.
Right?
It could have been universal medicine if someone had got to Tom Cruise.
If they got to him early.
Yeah.
If you could have recruited him to your cult, he would have been a valuable member of the universal medicine community.
But then again, I'm trying to think of The Rock. Do you think The Rock has... He hasn't... I mean, I guess he's Christian. He's probably Christian. Samoans are quite a Christian community.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
He feels, but he's never been...
Like Ryan Reynolds.
Really
Ryan Reynolds doesn't seem to have any kind of spiritual... I'm just trying to think of the most successful, wealthy people on the planet. Dr. Dre, he doesn't seem to have a desire to... You don't see him going to ashrams and stuff, do you?
No,
I guess it's not compulsory.
So. No.
But there is a level... There are certain celebs. So can we judge those celebs who have achieved everything materially, but they still feel like they need spiritual nourishment?
Well, there was a wise man who once said to me, Charlie, he said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." And that man was Russell Brand, a man who I'm sure has nothing to be judged about. Did you see that he's fucking baptizing people now?
I
try not to watch. I understand. Try to avoid anything to do with Russell Brand,
I'm broadly aware that he's leaning into that kind of Christian right,
diving in.
Yeah,
it's like he invented Jesus.
Right? What do you mean?
As in,
he's never heard of it before.
In the same way,
new thing.
Like Russell Brand, and I've always said this about him, regardless of all the horrible allegations that have been laid against him, but he's always been one of those people who has been an addict to whatever he's into. Whatever he's into, drugs, women, fame, whatever it is, those stages of his career, he's always been entirely consumed by the thing, and it's been the same with this Christianity thing. He's now in his undies baptizing people.
The thing about the Christian, well, when I say the Christian right, I mean specifically in the States, that is so weird is how these two things have got, how the political point of view, like the conservative principles have been married to this fundamentalist, hard right Christian, when there's so many things that shouldn't gel, I mean, even look at the guy that they're trying to get into the White House again. Yes. It's like, this is the dude.
I mean, it's amazing
this
to
is
me
the moral
that the religious right in America are behind Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But
he's literally the example of the sort of person who is motivated by all the things you are meant to be against.
Yeah. And then Russell Brand, who, despite, whatever the allegations are, even before that was a guy who, was a self-confessed sex addict, who was a heroin addict, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just weird.
But I guess that story of redemption, giving yourself to Christ and that is part of at least
I guess so.
narrative around that you can be cleansed by confessing your sins to your Lord and
I
Savior.
mean, that old
Jesus
clip
Christ.
of Donald Trump, which is like if it was a John Clark bit, you couldn't write it any funnier. Which part of the Bible?
What's your favourite bit of the Bible?
All of it.
All of it, mate. It's good from start to finish.
And
Not a dull moment.
And the guy just giving him so much
The
leeway.
begatting. I love the begatting, mostly.
Just name
any bit.
an apostle.
Yeah.
Just give us an apostle and a number.
I like Mark.
Yeah.
Mark's always
I like
been
Austin
underrated.
3:16.
I mean, even that would have been something.
But yeah, so I wonder with like cults when you're an adult who is well adjusted, and then you suddenly just pivot to something that, well, when I say well adjusted, you're an adult. We don't know how well adjusted that person is, but someone who suddenly you meet this individual, they're saying some shit that you like, and then like how does that transition happen from you being a 9-to-5 normal person with a normal life and a normal family to saying, hey, let's move to this compound and give our money to this? Like, is there, obviously it's an incremental change, but what is it that makes you go, oh, okay, everything we've been doing is wrong? Because you're gambling a lot by saying, hey, we're a normal family, we believe in normal things, to, oh, this weird ex-tennis coach is telling us blah, blah, blah. So now we're going to give him all our money and move onto the compound. Like, I can't think of one instance in which someone would be able to convince me, well, you know what, let's game this. It would have to be stuff that so someone says, look, you want the Saints to win a flag? I can give you that. Yeah. Would that make you happy?
But would you, like if someone comes to you and says, hey, there is a way I know you've always wanted for the Saints to win the flag, because I think this is actually how you do get recruited to a cult, which is you identify what is
longing.
Yeah, and what is most important, this thing that
That's
is inside
empty.
a person that is empty, and then you promise them that you can fulfill that thing,
Yeah.
right? I think if you ask me, how do people get to this position, there was something that they needed that this cult or this religion or this like provides the answer for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get that. That to me makes sense. So somebody comes to you. This is the bit where it falls down for me, which is if I come to you and I say, hey, I know that you've always wanted the Saints to win the grand final, but I actually can offer you that. All you're going to need to do is give me 90% of your money and move to a farm. Oh, I don't want to have sex with you.
Well, I think incrementally it starts with more like, hey, you like foot? I like footy. Let's get together. We start watching some games together. And then you start exploiting games where the Saints win. You somehow link it back. So now I'm the cult leader.
Yeah.
Now I'm linking it back to the reason they won is because we watched the games together. So I think we should make this a rule.
Regular thing.
Yeah, we get together
Yeah.
and watch the game.
I might actually invite I've got a friend who'd love to come down and be part of this as well.
Yeah.
He's got a few interesting ideas, but that's fine.
I think you're going too fast. I think it's a year of that, right?
Oh, a year.
I think a year, at least a year.
Nah, that's too much.
Too slow?
You got to get this from I got to get you recruited in a year.
Okay, so, all right, so
From start to finish, 1 year.
all right, so there'll be at least every year, no matter how bad your team is, there is a game that team, unless they're North Melbourne, there's a game where that team wins. It's like it's a big upset or whatever, and so you've got to seize on that moment to say the reason this thing happened. So, for instance, I've been doing we've got a new season of The Unexplained Explained coming up, and I've been doing some research on different topics, and I was really fascinated by. I wanted to know people who had real life examples of simulation theory, why they believed, the world was they were living in a simulation. And the only thing I could find is coincidences. It's like someone go, oh, I was thinking about a friend of mine from primary school I haven't seen in 20 years, and I turned the corner and there they were. Must be living in a simulation. And it always seemed to be like coincidence. But that's a
it's
strong
almost
enough.
like any example of magic, ghosts, religion.
Yeah,
Mostly
psychic
all of those
ability.
things can be. In fact, I would like to recruit you to the Church of Coincidence.
That's what it is. The Church of Coincidence, the Holy Church, or the Holy Communion of
That
Coincidence.
our entire society is based on coincidences, but we believe we can orchestrate coincidences.
Yeah, if you stick with me. So the Saints have a big upset win, and I, the cult leader, convinced me, the Charlie. Well, now I'm getting real confused.
Yeah, good.
I'm disassociating.
this
Well,
is good.
help me.
No, this is helpful.
This is how
You're
you prime me.
recruiting it. Yeah, that's
I recruit myself to my own cult. It's like
right.
a Fight Club
That's how
twist.
we get you.
Yeah.
I did nothing. I was just quietly sipping a beer while he did it all inside his own head.
But I say, well, I mean, because as skeptical as I am, I do get superstitious, Gemma leaves the room, the Saints kick a goal. You have to stay out. You can't come back in. Like we're in a hot streak. We're in the flow state.
I'm going to tell you something. And again, this is just an example of what you're talking about, how easy it is to convince people of things through coincidence. Tegan Higginbotham, and I don't feel bad saying her name on because we talked about this on the radio also. She's the producer of the radio show I've been doing on Triple M in the mornings. And she told us that when Carlton games are on, she will often go and hide in the cupboard at their house. Because during one game, she hid in the cupboard and they did well. And so now if they're going badly, she will go and hide in the cupboard.
I get that. I actually get that.
But this cupboard is so small that she has to take things out of the cupboard to hide. Like that to me is like...
Take out umbrellas and a broom.
If I'm taking stuff out of a cupboard to get in it, I don't care that much that my team wins.
Yeah.
They're on their own. And you know what? I'm like, you've trained. You've come up with game plans. If you need me to be in a cupboard for you to win, then that's on you, not on me. I don't feel like I should have to get into a cupboard for my football team to win.
Well, for me, it's Schrodinger's football game.
Yeah.
It's like the observed state will determine whether or not they win. So if
Do you reckon it's ever like that, by the way, the opposite? Do you ever reckon anyone comes to one of our TOFOP live shows and they
closes their eyes?
And no, they don't have as good a time as they wanted or whatever, and they're like, I think that was on me today.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the wrong seat. Or they go to a really good one and they're like, I've got to sit in that same seat next time. And if they don't...
With the live shows, I reckon definitely...
Maybe that
would be
yeah.
it. Because
this is the lucky seat.
That seems to be what happened with the last run of live shows is everyone was like, same time
this
next
first
week.
one was awesome. Let's just keep it exactly the same as it was. I mean, I guess there was a level of that superstition built into it.
Well, I think it's because we're just trying to impose order on a chaotic universe.
Yes,
right?
I think that's it.
Yeah. And so
there is no point to any of this. That is incredibly difficult for us to deal with. Therefore, somebody offers you a set of reassurances or solutions or guidelines or rules, and we crave that as human beings to have some sort of explanation.
So do you think that's
who we are and what we are?
Do you think that's why, like, people are in climate change denial? Like this idea that it feels like such a overwhelming, chaotic, like, how do we fix this? Sure, we can lower our emissions, but China's still going to be pumping, blah, 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 blah. So that's too overwhelming to think about what we're facing. So rather than that, I'm just going to go this thing that it's fucking made up. It probably doesn't exist. It's probably like, left-wing governments in bed with renewable technology companies, which are... Because that seems more like controllable. It's like as long as we take down Dan Andrews or whatever it is.
Yes. I agree. It's an easier thing to, particularly when it's an issue like climate change where you feel like you have no control. Then are you the sort of person who believes in the science and then feels incredibly fearful like the entire time about what's going to happen?
Yes.
Or are you, yes, I am, I guess. Or are you somebody who says, oh no, this is not real, therefore I don't have to. I mean, maybe there's religious people who think I'm the same with religion.
100%.
That I, want to be able to like do the things that religion says that I can't do, therefore I am denying this thing that is absolutely true and I'm going to burn in hell. But I've just decided not to believe in it because I don't like to subscribe to the rules or
Yeah.
regulations.
For
right?
instance, that the guy that I want to get into the White House
Yeah.
is a serial adulterer and
Yeah.
assaulter and all this
Ah.
kind of stuff. Yeah, 100%. So, okay, well, I guess that answers the question of like how an adult with a normal life. You just need one hook, right? You just need to.
You
But
just
then-
need to find a person's vulnerability and then exploit it.
I
It's
guess-
like scammers, right?
but the
Scammers identify the elderly or the
Yeah.
people who've been through a bereavement or whatever it might be. They find points in your life where you're not thinking at your best, and then they hook themselves in those moments of vulnerability. So it's the same with cults.
And I guess it's like a pyramid scheme in that if you've identified one person who has this mindset, it's probably not going to be too hard for them, for you to get them to connect you to their friend who's also feels the same way, who has a friend, who has a friend, who has a friend. And then before you know it, you've got your cult together.
Yes.
But then how do you make them all drink poison?
Now it feels like you're looking for practical instructions.
Oh, because I was thinking about that. What's the one? The Hal Bop Comet guys. The whatever they were called.
The sneakers. They didn't they all wear the same
Yeah,
sneakers?
and that guy was an
Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate. That's it. And he was an ex-pastor who, a bit like L. Ron Hubbard, combined kind of sci-fi with like religious
Yeah.
storytelling to kind of convince people that there's a comet coming and we're all going to get on that.
Like,
But-
I mean, if they started putting propaganda in Bluey, like cult,
Oh yeah,
Like,
fuck,
I mean,
mate, that
'cause
would be like that would take
just
over the
subtly
world.
started like, just introducing a few little. I mean, they could recruit people based on
100%.
yeah.
I mean, Iona wants to play cricket based on an episode of Bluey. Like that's how powerful that show is. That a kid who has no interest in sport at all is like, I want to play cricket because she saw them playing it on
Yeah.
Bluey.
Yeah, if one day, like Aslan style, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe style, it was revealed at the end that Bandit is God and Bluey's like Jesus or whatever.
What do you think? I'm not sure if you were aware of the controversy, but about a year back, there was an episode in which Bandit stepped on a scale and complained, "Oh, I've got to lose some weight,"
Oh, yeah.
and grabbed his belly or something like that, and various kind of groups sort of reacted, and so they pulled that scene out. And at the time, I remember seeing that episode and being like, "Oh, that did not strike me as being particularly like negative messaging about weight is not necessarily related to health and blah blah blah. It's just something that people talk about. Like it's just it was a portrait of a fairly common domestic scene that a parent who's busy in life wishes they could exercise more. I mean, he was specifically talking about, oh, I need to lose some weight. But is that something that people don't talk about?
It's an interesting point, I think.
I mean, I think it's
For guys our age, there is, because I read Lucinda Price's book Frooms, and fantastic, but it's all basically about body image, being raised in an era of like the messages she saw, her own like cosmetic surgery and like eating problems, eating issues, and so. Even though I kind of intellectually understood all those things, generationally, you can very much see that, the way we perceive that. I was saying to her when we were talking that in my generation, it was just very common and never thought of that was, your parents would talk to you about your weight, like people would joke about your weight, like if you put on weight, it was just normal. It was normalized. And it was very normal to be able to, as we've got older, there's been this body positivity movement, and sometimes that's the one that I've found most confronting, because particularly the way we were raised, it was always, and I've got a lot of self-loathing around my body image, and I am the sort of person after a big meal, pinches that part of my body, or like feels
totally.
like feels guilty about how I look, or when I'm not in shape, or if I've put on weight and those sort of things. And you do realize how ingrained it is, like how much of my life I have spent hating the way I look, or hating my own body, or feeling terrible about like you said, that idea. But then there is that other aspect of understanding health and healthy eating and stuff. And I know we get those two very much conflated with each other,
Yep.
and they're not always the same thing. And even that healthy eating can sometimes be a kind of dysmorphia in its own way as well. But it's such a difficult, ingrained with our entire society message. And now we have that added layer of like Ozempic and like drugs around it. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. So I can understand why on a kids' TV show, they don't want to just ingrain this message that like getting on a scale and like
Pinching your fat.
yeah, that is like that's just a normal, because I think it would have been better to grow up in a world where that wasn't normal. I don't think it's made me healthier
Yeah.
to have that in the back of my mind. But then we have to do that next thing, which is how do we grapple with the idea of like being health forward, you know, because there can be very healthy people that we would have considered in the old days overweight. And as we know now, there can be like very skinny people who are incredibly unhealthy because they're not eating properly or getting nutrients and those sort of things. So it is about changing the way we talk about those things as a society. And I guess, yeah, it's weird to me, but I guess maybe on a kid's cartoon, and even though it's not pitched at me or I don't have kids, I think maybe it is good that they don't just casually reinforce the idea that, you know.
Well, I think it's also recognizing the size of the platform,
Yeah.
you know, because Bluey's one of the most popular shows in the world. Like, it's incredible how successful that show is. And so maybe if it was like just a smaller show, you know, it wasn't sold internationally, you might be like, well, you know, you'd be less inclined. But I think that the producers would have gone, okay, we have a responsibility. This is going out to a lot of households and maybe vulnerable people as well, that maybe we remove that. Because there was a bit of backlash from people saying like, come on. And my initial instinct was like, oh, like, is it really that big a deal? Like, these are conversations that people have. But then I was like, oh, but you know, you've got to consider your platform, which is why, you know.
Well, yeah, because also it's a kids show though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not just a, as you said, reflective of a society show like
Yeah.
like an adult show
yeah.
that we would watch where they might do the same thing, where you could argue, well, they're just representing someone
Real
who lives in this
conversations.
society
Yeah.
and who
It's talking dogs.
yeah, right. It's talking dogs for kids, and like there is an element of we're modeling
Yeah.
good behavior that's
And
throughout that entire show.
I would say Iona's like, I'd say a good chunk of her personality, her
Yeah.
language is Bluey. Like in the same way that our generation, The Simpsons, is so ingrained in how we reference things. Like so much of her sense of humor, her understanding of the world, her interest have been created by that show, which that's not a criticism. It's just it's an amazing show that's very, very effective. But yeah, like that stuff that gets coded in really, really early. And I don't think it's...
And if Bluey's coding in that idea of that, stepping
That
on
being-
the scales and not feeling good about your body shape, even if you're a dog,
Yeah.
you know, then yeah, I mean, it is funny though because because I know this is one of those ones where, you know, over the course of our podcast, but over the course of, you know, just being a comedian as well, like, you know, definitely earlier in my career, like you know, you would like make a lot of jokes around weight, and not even just earlier. Like it still is one of those things that you catch yourself sometimes, particularly when it comes to athletes or whatever, like talking about the shape or size of people's bodies, and it does feel like you're like, oh, I can feel how ingrained this has been within me. But I know that it has changed very much, you know, in the way that we talk about these things, and it is good that we've changed.
Are you, and maybe you could give me insight on this, it feels like when I see American comics, it feels like American comics still very much, especially the ones who don't want to be cancelled or cancel this comics, like that's still very much part of the scene in American comedy, whereas I don't see it as much from Australian comics. Is that an accurate statement? Do you think Americans still...
I don't know.
Right.
I think yes, but I don't know is probably the answer, because it's always hard to tell with America in particular. Is it just because there are so many and therefore we see them, or is it
broader representation?
Is the percentage exactly the same, or is it? I think there is still more of that comedy of difference in America, because that's always been so much part of the palette by which they paint. Black people are like this, Asian people are like this, I'm Hispanic, I'm like this. Sometimes in a very positive way. Sometimes it's like the ownership of this is me and this is my culture. Sometimes the absolute opposite, where you see people in clubs going, where are the Hispanic people at? Or where are the blah, blah, blah people at? And, these people are like this. So I think that probably has always been a bit more of an American style of comedy than it has been in other places.
Well, Australians pride themselves on being more egalitarian, right? Like, it's.
But also, I don't think that we have so high in the mix different, like,
they're not such stark categories, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so.
Don't think so.
But I don't really know. And I work within the industry and I'm not sure.
This is off topic a little bit, but it sort of relates back to Bluey and
it's not like we started the episode going, we're going to have a conversation around Bluey and body image.
Iona had her birthday a couple of weeks back, and we have all these leftover treats, and there's one bag of Natural Confectionery Company party mix, like a 1 kilo bag.
Yep.
And it's been sitting above the fridge, like locked away for about 2 weeks, and then a couple of nights ago, I was just like, I'm going to crack that. I'm going to crack that pack and have a few. And like a kilo of lollies is a lot. Like I poured them, because I opened the bag, I was like, well, I want to keep them fresh. I poured them into a big Tupperware container. I'm like, that's a fucking lot of lollies. And I don't think I have the self-control to keep them. And so I'm debating my mind, because this is the problem with Jem. Jem doesn't have a sweet tooth. Well, it's not her problem. It's a problem with me. Jem doesn't have a sweet tooth. So she's quite happy. She can have stuff in the house because she's never really tempted to eat it. But I have treats in the house, and it's like it's like the telltale heart, I can it's calling to me, and every day I'm like, when can I go eat all that stuff? So I've been thinking the last few days, I'm just going to have to go dump those lollies. And I know Gemma's argument will be like, can we just keep them?
Just give them to kids down at the park.
Exactly. No, not that. But like,
just get your van that you bought.
Get
in the back of your van.
Quit your tennis coaching lessons. No, because it's good to have lollies on hand as bribes for kids occasionally. Like, you put your socks on, you get a lolly. And so it would be a good resource for us to have, but I don't know that I can have it in the house.
What if you bag them? Can you individually bag them? Because therefore you've got them for like little bags for like, a purpose of going to the park or whatever it might be, where you need a little,
I just don't think I can have them in the house. I honestly think I have to get rid of them. I have to flush a kilo's worth of confectionery.
You can't do that.
Why not?
You've got to.
It's not a waste. It's not like nutritionally. It's not like I'm wasting good food. It's just sugar.
I mean, firstly, I think that if you were a kid and you heard as an adult you were going to flush a kilo of lollies, I mean, not flush, obviously. You're not going to flush them, but dump them. Then I think you would hate the adult you've grown into, for a start. I think the next bit is, I think if you put them into portions, like a meal prep, so you know what the portion is that you're allowed to have.
But then I'll eat 5 portions.
But at least then you've got the problem with your kilo tub is the endless snacking, right? Because I understand this, because my nieces got me after Taskmaster. One of the tasks that I did badly on was because I'd eaten a third of a tub of marshmallows that we were meant to use for a task, and I'd just been snacking on them in the dressing room, and so therefore I couldn't do the task properly. And so they thought it would be funny to buy me a big jar of marshmallows, but they also, so that, out of love, bought me a big jar of Ellen's, sort of mixed sweets as well. And so I've been facing a similar dilemma to you. And there was part of me that thought, you know what, you're just going to go through this. I've been eating more than I should have, but I have learnt. You've
reached a limit.
Not a limit, but I feel like now that I've actually gone, you know what, I'm glad that I didn't get rid of this. I'm glad that I have.
Was there a state, though, in which did you gorge at first and then go, ooh, and then you were able to pull back? Because that's what I felt like I did the other night, is I cut the bag and I had a handful and felt a bit sick. But now it's like, oh, but it's calling to me.
I've been associating them with like little rewards for doing something.
Yeah.
So
It's
I've
the only way to do it.
I've
really.
been walking up to the laundrette, for example. It's like about a 15-minute walk. So it's that slightly inconvenient amount of like time where you'd be like, I could take the car. I could just put the stuff in the back of the car. It's a bit annoying to lug my laundry like 15 minutes up the hill to get there. However, if I bang a couple of like snakes and red cars and whatever in my red frogs in my pocket as a little sort of you get
Reward,
to have
well
this
done.
as a
And
reward.
glucose,
Yeah,
replace the
that's
energy
what-
you've burnt
Oh,
off.
Charlie,
Have you rationalised that?
Yeah,
I've
that's,
seen footballers eating snakes after games, so it must be good for you.
that's literally basically what my brain thought. But it is. It's good. It kind of. I've been associating them with a reward, not like a. So I don't feel bad about like because the guilt is you don't want to feel the guilt.
Yeah.
You know what? You want to do the crime, but you don't want to have to do the time.
That is true, but I'm worried that I will. I'm worried that I will do the crime and the time because I know myself, and it's like when I buy a packet of biscuits. My rationale is always if I eat them all, then I won't be tempted to have them tomorrow.
That's true.
But there's a kilo of lollies, Will.
Yeah.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat myself sick, and then I'm going to feel bad for a few days, and then because Gemma won't miss them. Iona doesn't know they exist.
Yeah.
So I could dump them, and it's only my own lack of willpower that is. That's the only crime there is that you weren't strong enough to resist. If I just left,
I think
pack
you are
unopened-
strong enough.
You do?
I do. I believe in you. I think you're strong enough. I think you can actually do it. I think there's a point in your life where the story you're telling yourself is, I can't do this. Just because previously, when I've been in this same situation, I haven't been able to do this. I think all you've got to do is actually just shift your mindset and say, you know what? I am a man who actually can demonstrate enormous self-control in a whole range of things. So I can regularly go to the gym.
Yep.
I can be there for my family. I'm a reliable, I'm a good father. I do, I throw myself actively into being a good father. You do things around the house. You actively engage in your work. You're a reliable worker. You've shown in every area of life that you are able to impose a level of discipline in order to achieve, to actualize yourself into being the sort of person that you want to be.
Yeah.
And you role model that behavior in all sorts of aspects of your life. You're not a perfect person, nor is anybody. Yeah, occasionally maybe you'll eat 2 of the little packets that you put together rather than 1. But that's okay too, because you are generally a fit guy. You're causing yourself more consternation by concentrating on the idea of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think if you just go, that's okay. Occasionally I'll have some.
So why do you think that portioning it into smaller bags is more effective?
I think that's a measurement of how much you've had.
Okay.
I think you can say to yourself.
So like serving suggestions style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can do that thing of going, oh yeah, I think what you do is you do a system whereby 1 is the right amount, 2 is an okay amount.
Yeah.
And that way, if I just have 1 bag, that's actually it's my 1 scoop of gelato Messina rule.
Yes, right.
I can only have 1 scoop. The minute I start to transition into a 2
You
scoop
got a
guy,
problem.
that's when but if I'm having 1, I can have 1 scoop of gelato Messina.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, you're a functional sugar addict.
Yeah. That's right. A little methadone.
A little
A little
methadone. Just a
Messina
little-
methadone.
just a little cup.
Every day. What's your new flavor, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I operate in. I operate in the new flavor zone. I've set myself a little parameter whereby, it satisfies my curiosity around the world. I get to try a new flavor.
I think maybe that's that's the mindset I need to adopt because I'm more of an all or nothing kind of guy.
Yeah.
Where I'm like,
Doesn't work.
I'm in denial.
All or nothing doesn't work.
Right.
I'm not into it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a way to live your life.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this on the regular show quite a bit. That recently I've been I'm actually not going to. I've been much more relaxed in terms of my eating and exercise habits, less kind of rigid.
Yeah.
And I haven't noticed an enormous difference in my health or well-being, but I have noticed less stress in terms of how I operate in my day. There's more flexibility. I just know So the flight down last night, because it was so late and so tired, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to reward myself by ordering some snacks on the plane because I don't normally do that. And I got myself a beer, got some cheese and crackers, got some chocolate chip cookies, got some lollies, and a pot of noodles. Like I literally had a feast. And when I ordered all this stuff, I was like, I probably won't eat all of this. I'll probably have a couple. I ate all of it, Will. I ate all of it on the plane. And then I was like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Like I thought what I was going to do, it's like the equivalent of the dad buying his son a carton of cigarettes.
Yeah.
That I'll like, oh yeah, smoke them up, Johnny. You'll regret it tomorrow. But it's like, oh no, it turns out that I like eating all these things.
Yes.
I like eating them all at once.
It never works, that one. And I think the whole I'm going on a diet tomorrow or I'm stopping whatever tomorrow just leads to, I mean, by the way, I'm not inventing this thinking and I am still guilty of thinking this way myself all the time, but I am trying to live my life a little more. So when we're recording this, it's the day after the AFL Grand Final. And so there was a function, that I was invited to afterwards that I didn't really want to go to, but there was just a bit in my head. I was like, you know what? They've probably got some free food, some finger food.
Yeah, you love
I'm
finger
going to
food.
roll in there. I'm going to eat whatever finger food is available. And as soon as I'm done eating my finger food, I'm going to go home. And I put no limit on what the amount of finger food was going to be. It was just going to be whatever happened to present itself. And it was just a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel guilty. I was like, that's what I went there to do. I enjoyed it. You went
Was it
into
good
it.
finger food? Or was it like party pie finger food?
Arancini balls.
Uh,
Oh yeah. No, I mean, fine.
yeah.
They were doing like an eggplant parmigiana sandwich.
Oh, that sounds
So they were
interesting.
doing
Crumbed?
meat sandwiches as well. So,
Right.
but this was the
Yeah.
vegetarian option. So there was a big stack of a kind of fancy sandwiches.
Little sandwiches.
And yeah, they were like rolls, but then cut into American style sandwiches.
like
then
it.
cut into like
Hoagies.
thirds, hoagies
Yeah.
in thirds.
Love it.
And look, the meat ones were very pastrami's and like that kind of American
Deli
style
meat.
sandwich. Yeah, deli meat. But their version of the vegetarian one was like an eggplant parm. Yeah, it wasn't not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm big into sandwiches. Georgie Parker, the journo, she Instagram feed, she fetishizes sandwiches. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I love a sandwich.
But I love following her feed just to see the sandwiches. And then it's inspired me to go out and find some sandwiches. And it's like, oh, I forgot how good a fucking sandwich is. Like when you find a really good place that just like throws some stuff together and just, it's just bread. Like bread is good. I'm
Yeah.
so glad I'm not gluten intolerant because I just don't think I could handle not being able to eat bread.
No, I agree with you. There is a banh mi place in the city that, sometimes you discover a hole in the wall where you're like, this will either be terrible or amazing.
Or a
Like one of
discovery.
those places that just basically does one thing,
Yep.
but
There's one of those in Sydney on William Street. It's
Yeah.
an amazing hole in the wall banh mi.
so this joint, I went there the other day and I went on such a journey too, because it was literally one of those things where I was like, this looks like this is going to be great. And so I go up and it was very much, they give you like a ticket and then you have to just stand on the street and you have to wait for this like hole in the wall. They open a door and someone hands you a sandwich. Sort of
They throw it at
you. and I was so, I was trying to look through the little window, trying to work out, what was going on at the back. And I went on this real journey of, this looks great. Oh no, I've ordered the wrong thing. Because they had two veggie versions. They had like a tofu banh mi and they had like a honey mushroom or something like banh mi. And I went to tofu, just went the simple option. And then the whole time was like, I've ordered the wrong one. I should have gone with the honey mushroom. I should,
Yeah, that's
and
what I
then,
would have gone with.
And then I'm looking through the window and I'm like, oh God, I don't know. This doesn't actually look that impressive. And then it came out. And I've been thinking about that. sandwich for a
Really?
week. It was so good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about it to the point where I was like, I wonder if they'll be open today, and I could go in that place.
Is it the roll? That's the
They
bun.
toasted it.
Yeah, that's the Yeah. When it's warm and crispy on the outside, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm great. All right, let's wrap it up and see if we can find it. Pardon me.
Yeah, we'll get a sandwich.
Thank you
That's right.
again for being a patron. We appreciate it. Tell everyone about this show. If you've got some friends who listen to any Everyone Relax, it doesn't have to be TOFOP. It could be Two Guys, One Cup. It could be Philosophy. Great way to support the show is to join our Patreon. We're going to be doing more of these bonus episodes. But for now, I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
I am not an animal. I'm a fucking human being. Motherfucker! How long? Not long. Everyone relax.